All right. Hello. Hello out there, everybody. How's it going? Hi, how you doing? I am Aaron from Solace. I am back with you for yet another office hours. It is Tuesday, April 23rd, 25th? 25th, Tuesday, April 25th, 9 a.m. here in Vancouver, Canada. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you're watching this. And if you're watching the replay on YouTube or LinkedIn, thanks for checking us out. So today, we're going to be talking all about Solace Platform APIs. So not messaging APIs, not the actual client data connectivity PubSub APIs. We're going to be talking about all the other APIs in the Solace ecosystem for managing your brokers, managing your cloud instances, monitoring your brokers, the event portal, and yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So if you have questions about how to configure Solace brokers, how to monitor them, how to deploy your Solace Cloud services, how to interact with the event portal, that is what today is all about. So I'm hoping that there might be some questions out there that we can answer live here on air. So in order to help me do that, as you know, I got a special guest today, my colleague Julian. Julian, I'm going to bring you in here. Hello.
Hi, everyone.
All right. Welcome to the stream. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks.
So you're joining us from Ottawa, right? So you're 3 hours ahead of me. So noon lunchtime for you.
Yeah.
I hope you don't get too hungry or you've had a snack before we get started. Do you want to introduce yourself just for people out there?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Julian. I joined Solace around the time Solace Cloud was being created. So about 6 years ago, I was one of the first few devs on it. And yeah, now I'm an architect. And because I've been around for so long and kind of helped build all the initial things, I'm a bit of a jack of all trades, kind of know a bit about how everything works. And so my latest project is working on the Solace Cloud REST APIs and kind of overseeing how they all function across all the platform, the Solace Cloud platform, just because we've grown so much.
Right. So, I mean, Solace is all about publish, subscribe, asynchronous communication. You know, when I do a lot of my developer workshops, it's kind of educating people on the benefits of async decoupled one-to-many communication that publish, subscribe does. But of course, REST over HTTP has its place for doing a lot of things. And like our own internal backend infrastructure uses a lot of REST. And it's a very common way of interacting with kind of backend systems doing CRUD style operations. So yeah, we ourselves use tons of REST, even though we might kind of, compete against it as a kind of communication protocol kind of implementation for distributed applications. So excellent. I'm glad to have you here. Even though you're an architect, you still like to get your hands dirty and do a little development work. We're going to be looking at a plugin that Julian, you wrote not too long ago for kind of doing, for doing what? What are we going to be seeing later on?
Yeah, so as kind of what started as a demonstration of our brand, like new and shiny REST APIs, I built an IntelliJ plugin that interacts with Mission Control, so our product for managing event broker services. And, just the usual CRUD stuff, so you can kind of see the brokers, create them, see more details. But as we kind of went down this journey, we started to see a lot more things you could do with this plugin and how well it interfaces when you're developing EDAs and whatnot. So yeah, what started as just an exploration of our REST APIs grew into so much more.
Yeah, so it's a plugin for IntelliJ. So developer tooling. I actually wrote one as well last year for Event Portal, and so hopefully we can do a bit of a mashup demo here, showing them both off. Yeah, talking about brand new shiny APIs. So for those that don't know, Solace Cloud has had a REST API for kind of doing configuration management deployment of Solace Cloud brokers, but it was never standardized. So it's been kind of a version 0 for a really long time. And a lot of our customers who have kind of CI/CD tool chains that require spinning up Solace Cloud instances have used that. But Solace Cloud has recently gone through, probably Julian, you're heavily involved in this, but kind of like standardizing and formalizing these APIs to make kind of a version 2 official Solace Cloud mission control bunch of APIs for customers to use, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like when we started up, we had some sound practices where we were familiar with things like JSON API. So we took a lot of learnings to build it. But as the project grew, it quickly got out of hand. People were building REST APIs as quickly as they could. And at a certain point, Solace Cloud itself also started getting more traction. So we had a lot more serious integrators saying, we need stable APIs. We need to know how to use them, be predictable. So then we kind of spent a lot of time just looking really deeply into what we had and what we wanted to go, looking at various peers in this space. And so it's been really exciting, just kind of getting a handle of it. So as you use our REST APIs moving forward, which internally we call our V2 REST APIs, hopefully you'll see a lot more of this consistency in how you use them and how you learn about them, and yeah, all those related things.
When you first start building a product, obviously, and you want to kind of go fast and just build things, sometimes you don't know exactly how it's going to be used in the future, or you kind of keep, iterating and coming up with new ideas, and APIs and interfaces kind of keep changing. And you obviously want that flexibility to be able to change things as you go. But at some point, you kind of have to lock yourself into like, all right, we need to standardize and stabilize our interfaces to this thing. So it was probably good that you guys kept it kind of internalish, I guess, for a while, to allow you to figure out exactly how applications and tool chains and processes are going to be using these APIs. And then, yeah, once you actually, you never know exactly how it's going to work until you start using it. I've kind of figured that out as I started to develop the plugin for using the event portal. It really, I don't know, you find things that work really well and then other things that didn't work quite as well. And so I would feed that information back to the event portal team, and they kind of updated and changed it. And, it ended up being a much more polished product when you kind of, put it through its paces, I guess. But at least with the event portal, it was kind of the first version. At least Solace Cloud had kind of its own internal APIs, and you had a good idea of what worked and what didn't work for your final or your more polished V2 versions of it. So cool. All right. Hey, well, thank you out there for joining us. That was a little quick intro. I always like to ask where people are joining from. We are broadcasting live on YouTube and on LinkedIn and on Twitter, actually. And so if you're out there, if you can hear me, say hello. We got 2 Canadians here from Canada. I am going to bring in a third guest. Luckily, this is the first time I've ever had 3 guests on my office hours before. But my colleague Giri, who's part of the developer advocate team here with me on my team, because Giri has built a plugin as well. So Giri, I'm going to add you to the stream. Hello.
Hey.
Hey, Giri. All right. So speaking of, like, where are you in the world right now?
Oh, I'm sitting in Bangalore, India. Solace
Bangalore.
office.
All right.
It's
So
other side of the world.
Yeah, that's right. So it's morning for me. It's what time is it over there for you?
9:40.
9:40 p.m. Okay.
PM,
Well, yeah,
of course.
we're pretty opposites here. So
Yeah.
thank you for joining us. Hope we're not going to keep you up too late.
No worries.
That said, I did my office hours from Singapore last time with Rob Tompkins, and it was midnight for me, midnight till 1. So I looked a little haggard out there. Anyway, Giri, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Say hello.
Sure. I'm your colleague. I do the same thing that you do, developer advocate. We have some fun stuff interacting with our potential customers and customers in terms of workshops, kind of talking about the new features in the product. And also, we got to build some cool toys around the new features coming up in the product. One of the candidates is our V2 Cloud REST API. Pretty exciting stuff, just along the lines of what you talked about, the IntelliJ plugin. I got the opportunity to build a Confluence plugin and a Slack plugin. So I'm kind of immersed in these APIs as an end user, using these REST APIs. What can we do in terms of SDLC and integration with Event Portal in a programmatic API first manner? So pretty exciting. So I will be talking about the Confluence plugin with you. If you allow me.
Yeah, we have quite a few customers looking for that kind of interface. So a lot of so our group, the CTO group, and the developer advocates within that, last year we built out a number of integrations using the Event Portal API, because not everybody always wants to log into our SaaS to use the Event Portal. It's like we built this API to be able to take the data from the portal and pull it out and use it in whatever tooling you are using yourself. So as a developer, IntelliJ, I'm a Java developer. I want to kind of view the event portal information in my IDE. Slack, isn't it nice to be able to kind of just like do queries from within Slack using various kind of Slack apps? And then, yeah, Confluence, being able to kind of automatically pull some of that real-time event portal data directly into your Confluence documentation system and kind of look at what's in there. So, yeah. Okay, so hello, Phil. Hola from UK. Thanks for joining us. Nick, Atlanta, Georgia. All right. Hello. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to the stream. Running Roach. You don't need to. I'm not the jury. Wisman, how's it going, man? Yeah, good to see you. This is a customer of ours from Hong Kong. It's late for you. It's midnight there. So, yep, good. I'm good. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the stream. Hello from Germany. Sissy, hello. Thank you. Looking forward to getting new APIs for logging, monitoring, managing. Okay. Well, I would have to say that out of all of the APIs that the Solace platform has, logging, monitoring, managing, the brokers, SEMP was probably one of our older APIs. So the mission control and the event portal APIs are the new ones, but we can definitely talk about SEMP just a little bit. So if I may, guys, don't mind me. The Solace platform APIs, I guess, that we're going to be talking about in general are the mission control, which Julian is going to talk about and kind of give us a demo of. The event portal API, which we have talked about before on this show, and we're going to cover maybe just a little bit. But also SEMP. I've never had a webcast about the SEMP. So SEMP, Solace Element Management Protocol. It has existed in one form or another since the early days of the broker. So SEMP version 1, for those old schoolers out there, would know that it's an XML RPC style of interacting with the broker programmatically. So you can either use our PubSub Plus Manager, which is the GUI tool for kind of creating queues and configuring usernames and stuff like that. In the older days, it was Solid Min, which is a Java kind of thick client doing more or less the same thing. There's our CLI, command line interface, which is a fully interactive shell. You log in and modeled after the Cisco iOS. So you can, if you like terminals and typing instead of kind of clicking on GUI buttons, you can do it that way. And then SEMP. SEMP version 1 was, it's XML based. It was very powerful, and it basically exposed all of the features and capabilities of configuring the Solace broker, programmatically. SEMP version 2, which came out about 6 years ago, changed it from an XML RPC to a fully RESTful API. So supporting all of this kind of standard REST verbs such as get, patch, post, delete. If I was going to share my screen really quickly here, I could show you, guys. Yeah, so there we go. So there's basically 3 different kind of APIs within SEMP. There's the kind of config API, which is kind of where you can say, build me a queue, build me a username, change the subscriptions on this thing. There's a monitor API, which you can query the kind of this current status of a particular client or endpoint or message VPN. And there is an action API, which is not used very much. It's kind of for more kind of one-off things like clearing messages out of a queue or disconnecting a client, for example. And if you want to find information about SEMP, it's pretty straightforward. Just go into your favorite search engine and type Solace space SEMP, and it should take you to this page here. This is kind of our landing page for all things SEMP, and it'll kind of give you the various Swagger Open API documentation for doing this kind of stuff. So if you have questions about SEMP, I am happy to talk about that. I've written a lot of monitoring applications for Solace, not so much command like configuration CI/CD ones, but I've done a lot of monitoring with Solace using SEMP. So if you have questions out there, please let me know. Yari, joining from Jakarta. Hello, welcome. Good evening, good night for you. Thanks for joining us. SEMP, the lifesaver. Yes, good old SEMP. And V1 for life. Yes, V1 for life until V. So version 2 SEMP, even though it's prettier and more I think, easier. For example, creating a queue, you can do it all with a single post command. Whereas with SEMP v1, you had to actually execute multiple commands, kind of create the queue, enable the queue, change the permissions. These were all separate commands. Version 2 simplified that quite a lot, but it's still not 100% feature complete for the broker level stuff. Everything within a message VPN you can do with SEMP v2, but yeah, SEMP v1, I as a monitoring application writer, I kind of agree. Hey, Mark, you're not anonymous this time. That's cool. Thank you for joining us here. So, okay, so I talked a little bit about SEMP. I'll get back to SEMP in a bit, but I do want to kind of make use of these two experts here while I have them on the stream, to show off some of the things that we were talking about and what we're going to build here. Let me just hide this banner. But yeah, if you're out there, tell us where you're joining from. Always happy to have people saying hello. You guys can see my screen, yeah? All right, so what I'm showing here is the Solace Event Portal. So this is right now looking at a particular organization that Julian kind of manages. So that's why he is the owner of all of these different application domains. So we've imported one of the Solace Event Portal samples into this particular org. For those that don't know, in the Event Portal, when you sign up for a Solace Cloud account, you have access to the Event Portal where you can kind of build, document, design, discover your existing architectures, as well as creating brand new ones in kind of a point-and-click interface. And to kind of help learn about the Solace Event Portal, there are ways to import samples. So if you click on that question mark, go to Event Portal Samples, it should pop you out and show you where you can actually download some various use cases. So here are some sample application domains. We have a retail app with some various retail components, a mining use case, aviation use case, and a telecom use case. So have you guys looked at all four of them? I'm just curious. I've only looked at two so far, but just have you tried the other ones? Either of you?
I mean, I mostly hang around the ones I'm familiar with. There's so many features that as you kind of pull in more and more, it can be hard to keep track of it.
Yep. Gary?
Yeah, I played with the first two. It's more of the business construct being reflected in the artifacts, domains. So nothing more to add. Just looked at them, but never.
That's right. So Julian imported the retail sample use case here into the event portal here. So along with a couple other little demo apps that Julian has built, we got the Acme retail one. So we're going to kind of just play with that today. Oh, we got a few more comments here from Ottawa. Yes, welcome. Good afternoon, I guess now. Running Roach. To be fair, version 1 used for monitoring a status, but actually I use version 2. Yes, I agree. Version 1 for monitoring, because you can do everything with a single command, essentially a get, to query all the broker stats, the queue stats. You do have to do a bit of XML translation rather than JSON, but I mean, for the most part, it's version 1 is much more performant when dealing with large kind of numbers of objects, right? So if you're running Solace hardware appliances and you have dozens of VPNs and maybe thousands of queues and thousands of clients, version 1 is where to go. The only issue with SEMP v1 is that it was never actually fully documented. So those of us that have kind of had to learn it have had to kind of do it. I wouldn't say we had to hack our way into it, but going and looking at the XML schema, kind of trying to reverse engineer it. Solid min also, there's some tricks that you can kind of get it to echo the SEMP v1 commands to your debug log. So if people have questions about SEMP v1, yeah, we can answer those. But good, I would agree with that. Using v1 for monitoring and v2 for kind of creating queues and creating objects. So all right, so hey, Julian, so we got our Acme retail use case here. Kind of our we got our different application domains. Within each application domain, we have our different apps. This is all kind of imported from the samples. And I guess how about really quickly, I'll just show my the plugin that I've written that kind of like does the mission control stuff, not the event portal stuff, and then we can you can do the live demo with actually deploying some brokers and stuff into the environment. So okay, so those who are familiar with the portal, this we got our applications, we have our events, our schemas. This is where you kind of go and define your applications, your eventing applications. Now, if you didn't want to use the portal, you're a developer, Java developer, maybe using IntelliJ. I basically have written a plugin that allows you to pull all of that exact same information here into this plugin, Solace Event Portal, applications, events, schemas. Hopefully the font is big enough, you can kind of see it. But it basically is using the Event Portal API to query all this stuff. And you can go and browse through the different kind of domains. I want to look at this customer-facing mobile app. You can see the different versions, the version release date, dig down and take a look at the events that this particular app is publishing on here. So here's even the topic. And you can actually view some of this code. So you can basically take a look at, you can browse around. If you want to actually go and look at the app in your browser, you could click on the kind of version number and it should pop out to, so it links out to Solace Cloud. And to do that. So Julian, if we're going to build an app and actually deploy it somewhere, we're going to need somewhere to run it, right? So let's take a look at the mission control plugin that you've written. And maybe let's talk a little bit about the APIs themselves, the new, how about api.solace.dev? Do you want to talk about this a little bit first?
Yeah.
How about we share you want to share your screen or do you want to talk about this for a minute here before we switch over?
We can tour the api.solace.dev first.
Okay. So I'll switch to you then?
Sure.
Okay, let's switch to Julian's screen here. Oh, all right, you got it on. Perfect. So yeah, what is this web page? So this is a pretty new landing page here. Do you want to just give us a tour?
Yeah, for sure. So one of the goals with our new REST API was to come up with documentation that looked modern and looked like what other peers have done. So we've chosen a product here, and it has a lot of the niceties that people are used to now in API docs. And I'm a big user of APIs, so I have some of my grails, like Stripe's famous API docs, which everyone kind of clamors for. But this is something similar where we generate open API specs, the kind of standard for documenting REST, from our microservices, and we import them into this tool, and it looks very nice. You got different samples. You can try things out if you feed in your token and see sample responses. And we have some guides to how to get started. And soon you should start to see recipes where we can even show an example of how you create a broker with different code samples and step through and follow along so that you can also leverage the APIs.
That is really awesome. So this page is essentially live. This is kind of almost having Postman kind of open, and you just so let's talk about that token for a second there. So within the event portal, if you're a user of the event portal, you have the ability to create tokens, which gives you either read-only access or read-write access, or kind of different parts of the there you go, down in your management, user management, you create yourself a token. So all you do once you've made that token, you take that string and just paste it into that API page, and that's it. Then it just works after that.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say we get the read permission for the application domain.
Only that? That's pretty limited.
You probably don't want to see me going and checking off a bunch of boxes.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, there are a lot of checkboxes there. So I will say this is actually quite fine-grained detail in terms of what parts of the portal or what parts of the kind of mission control interfaces and rights and permissions that a user might have. So
we took that approach. We are looking to improve it from a usability standpoint. So where for example, if you have certain permissions, transitively, you should get other ones. So we're working on things like that. But we always took the approach of as fine-grained as we could, So that, yeah, if you have a tool that really can only read application domains to do something very specific, you're not worried that's going to go ahead and delete an application domain or read even certain things inside the application domain if it shouldn't.
That's right. Okay. Okay. So you've got yourself a very, very simple token here that can only read application domains.
So we'll paste that guy in. So this should work. Oh, let's try again. I may not have copied it.
Yeah. Yeah, I never trust those copy buttons. I always just like select it and like
yeah. So maybe just to be safe, I can we have a couple convenience functions. So you can say if you just want read across all of Designer, you can hit this checkbox. It'll do that for you.
Yeah.
We create a token. We'll only display this once. I'm going to revoke this after this.
Quick, everybody, go and screenshot this this token. You can go and hack Julian's setup.
And so yeah, let's just copy this a couple extra times. Now we should be able to drop this in here. Let's try it.
Moment of truth.
Oh.
Ah,
oh, I'm in. Sorry, I'm in. Sorry,
you're in the wrong API call.
Yeah.
So this token, I mean, this is within your particular organization, right? So basically, you know, a kind of a production environment. You would have multiple organizations. Like Giri and I are part of the CTO org, but we also have access to the solutions engineering org as well. Julian, you're part of the messaging as a service, SAS Dev and SAS architects. So would typically organizations be like different lines of business, or would it be like kind of production, dev, test, or either, or both?
Yeah, I mean, so we are currently working on support for what we call environments that let you better segment your resources across different things like dev and QA or different geographies. But in the meantime, we have been working with customers to build multiple organizations as kind of a substitute for that sort of functionality. So, I mean, keep your ears trained on this, because soon we're going to be, changing how this stuff is managed. Because while there are benefits to having multiple organizations, because they're very segregated from each other, there are some weaknesses to that approach as well. Because things are so segregated, it can be hard to work with them.
So ideally, I guess an org is kind of like a fairly standalone business organization. Then within that, you'd have different environments, and that's like dev, test, prod, and whatever. Right. Okay. Hold on. I got just a few hellos here. I want to throw them up. People saying hello, and I don't want to ignore them. Hello from India. Another late night joining. Hello again. Hello from India. Welcome to the stream. Gary, you got some compatriots there, staying up with you and keeping us company here. So thank you for joining, everybody. So this API, this is live now. People can go and try this out if they want to poke around and look at the APIs and kind of just try stuff, and then copy and paste, as you said, some little samples or some basically the commands in order to figure out how to do this. That is certainly a lot easier way to learn these APIs than the SEMP v1 kind of ways of doing it in days of yore with us old school kind of broker monitors. So that is really awesome. So create an application domain. That's all event portal stuff. What about the mission control APIs? Let's. There we are. All right. So what can you do with mission control?
Yeah. So we're in the middle of porting over all of our functionality from V0 and V1 into V2. So right now,
there's actually a V0 and a V1. So
yeah, and that's part of this. There was internally, while we had pretty consistent APIs, the way kind of people built them and teams built them wasn't as consistent. So I think V1 was our first internal attempt to kind of make it a bit more standardized, but V2 was our really official. It became like a top priority for the product. So you'll see sometimes in some legacy URLs, you'll see V0 or V1.
Right, I have. Yep.
V2 is where you should start to see it become a lot more consistent.
If you know, do you know what percentage of the capabilities of V0 and V1 are now exposed and kind of standardized as part of V2? Is it 50%, 80%? Do you have a clue about that?
So Event Portal, I believe, should be close to like 100%.
Yeah, I think so.
To kind of pull the covers open a bit, Event Portal was the team that really started with V2 and really spent a lot of time standardizing. So we took their efforts in V2 and extended that throughout the rest of the platform. So a lot of us are catching up. So for other areas, I mean, we're probably at some APIs are at 50%, some are just starting the journey at 10 to 20%.
Okay.
Our mission control REST APIs are among the oldest. They were some of the first ones we built, and they were some of our most complicated because they're working with brokers and data centers and where those are and a bit of configuration. And so they were by far the hardest ones to port over and trying to figure out where to standardize and how to make it usable despite all of these different parameters and options you have. So it definitely took a lot long, like this simple kind of post and get of an event broker service represents many hours of working and fine tuning and arguing over the smallest things in our REST API to make sure that this was usable and yeah, a lot easier to use than our V0 version.
I can imagine, and the thing is, yeah, once you kind of release it and say, here it is, this is it, it's really hard to change. So you definitely want to make sure that you get that right. You know, in the Solace kind of application world, that would be equivalent to like your topic hierarchy kind of. It's kind of, you know, you want to get that right early on, spend some time thinking about that, deliberating over it and making sure that it's correct before you kind of say, all right, this is the topic hierarchy you're using. And then as soon as it's out there, you're like, oh, actually, I want to change it. And now it's a little bit more tricky because you have all these, you know, customers.
Hey, just to add to that, there are certain operations like creating a broker service. Even if you do it in a GUI, it's going to take at least a few minutes, right? Now that's available as an API. So imagine this kind of long-running processes exposed as a REST API, and then you query on the status of completion. I mean, in my mind, that is the hardest piece that I've seen in the entire stack. It comes together very nicely, actually.
That's like exactly. So, I mean, you know, like a database CRUD operation, you say post, like insert to this database or get, you know, get a data out of this. But like building a messaging service takes, obviously there's some microservices that get started up to go and like deploy, for example, an EC2 instance in AWS and then configure load balancers and configure DNS. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to happen. And then if you query for the status of that service, obviously it has to go and talk to this thing that's building it, right? So these are, yeah, there's probably a lot of hidden complexity behind this simple API that we're looking at here, right? So
yeah,
yeah, well, thanks for thinking hard about it and deliberating over the smallest details and everything your teams did there. I know that, so just recently, last week, Yuri and I were on a call with and some customers, you know, they're really wondering about all of the various V2 APIs. They've built a lot of Jenkins pipeline stuff using V0, V1, and not everything is, you know, available yet in V2. Can you give just an example of maybe one of the younger, you said some are just getting started, some of the other APIs that maybe are not quite as feature complete and things that are being worked on besides mission control and event portal here?
Yeah, so one area is we call this platform, this is kind of, we call it like our SAS platform, so how you manage users and whatnot. Right now, there really is only environments. And for example, you can't create users from our REST API, from a V2 REST API yet.
This is users of the SAS. So basically, yes, when I connect into Solace Cloud, it's like my authentication and stuff. So if you're a large enterprise, you'd want to have that automated somehow, connecting up to Active Directory or LDAP or something along those lines, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah. So yeah, exactly. User of the SAS, and then part of the way we choose which APIs to prioritize is definitely based on use and usability of our platform. So one example is that our platform supports SSO, like using OpenID Connect. And that is where we try to push customers to go to instead of managing it via REST APIs on our SAS, which you can totally do if you want. There's no problem. But an SSO kind of flow where your identity provider really holds all the permissions and roles and whatnot is a lot more attractive because now you have one centralized place to manage it.
Yeah, that makes it so much easier. It's just like, you know, we don't have to manage your user base and your who has access to what. You just use your SSO provider. And so that's available for any of our Solace Cloud customers, is that we can interface with your individual specific SSO provider?
Yep. So
Cool.
as long as you're not a trial account, but even like but once you have like a POC account or you sign up, you'll have access to that.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah, let's take a look at some of the emission control APIs here that you can create brokers. You can, I'm assuming, delete the brokers. What else can you do?
Yeah, so right now it's the CRUD operation, so create, read, update, and delete of event broker services, and some various attributes around them, like data centers, which is like which cloud and region you want to deploy things into.
Okay.
We also have event broker service versions. So internally, we have things called like service packs that kind of help dictate the cloud resources plus the broker itself. So we're exposing that a bit more so that users can have a better grasp of exactly what's being created underneath the hood.
Wow.
And we've just released our client profiles. So you can start managing your client profiles on the event broker service using our V2 REST APIs. And I mean, these are coming like there's so many more coming out, but this was our first use case. And part of it is based on just how many people are using them and how many repeatable ways they are, so that we can kind of help those use cases a lot better. And the ones that are kind of lesser used, we kind of put on our backlog.
So just to call this out specifically, for those that don't know, client profiles, why they're kind of exposed here at the platform level rather than at the broker level, there's a lot of kind of legacy historical reasons for that. Back in the early days of Solace, client profiles were essentially the only messaging related object that lived outside of your message VPN. Client usernames, queues, ACL profiles, all of that stuff, they were all compartmentalized inside a single VPN. But the thought was, I would have certain classes of client users connecting. And so if they shared a common client profile, then, that would just be simpler and easier to manage, right? I'd have my kind of high performance ones with large buffers and maybe larger TCP configurations. My slow users, they could have a different. And so I could change one client profile and it would affect multiple message VPNs, multiple applications. Eventually that came back to bite us in the butt, that people wanted to be able to have it scoped to a VPN. So we had to do some configuration changes in there, but also the fact that the client profile has some settings in it that can kind of affect the broker as a whole. And so you don't necessarily want random admins changing values on the client profile kind of willy-nilly. And so it was decided that, this configuration of these client profiles should be kind of moved up a level to kind of, the broker administrator, the person who's, creating the service, the Solace Cloud service. So within that client profile, there are some settings that you can really, if you don't get right, it can have some implications for the messaging service as a whole. So that's one of the main reasons why client profile is kind of outside of the broker and not and available through Solace Cloud. It's kind of locked down inside the broker in Solace Cloud. So
I just want to add one thing.
Yeah, go for it.
V2, we are talking a lot about V2. There is V0 and V1, right?
Yeah.
Some of the critical aspects like user management, certificates, authentication, they still belong to V0 and V1, right? Eventually, they will all be measured to V2.
Yeah.
But the point is, if you are developing an application, feel free to mix them. There is nothing stopping you, all right? So that's very important. That kind of came in handy for me. So just want to highlight that.
Just don't assume that they're going to be there forever. I think that's the main thing, right? So even in my plugin that I wrote, I do a couple of V0 calls to get usernames because I kind of have in my plugin I had kind of created by, and I had to use a V0 call to kind of get the list of usernames because it wasn't available in V2 yet. So eventually that's going to go away, right, Julian? I mean, not. I assume this V0 and V, even if the V2 functionality is done, the V0 and V1 will probably be available for a little while afterwards while customers kind of migrate over to these.
Yeah, like of course, like the last thing we want to do is break anyone's integrations, especially when they're in things like CI/CD pipelines. So we've made some steps to try and make the transition easier. So for example, permissions tend to be shared across the V0 and V2 equivalents, so that your same API token can slowly start using the V2 APIs. And part of in our V2 APIs, we've outlined kind of our commitment levels to beta versus early access, what it means to deprecate an endpoint or a parameter or something like that. And that's supposed to also help so that because with V0, V1, we've never publicly, we don't really have a hard rule for this is how to deprecate these things. Yeah. So for now, we're they're very handheld, and we're trying to be very careful with how we bring these over. And then we're starting to gather a lot more metrics so we understand as people start moving them off V0. But yes, like Yuri said, you can start migrating calls that you know about to V2 as long as there's an equivalent. You can mix and match, and just keep an eye out. We'll hopefully start being able to deprecate, start marking things as deprecated, so that you'll start getting a bit of a warning, and then kind of go from there.
Is there like a what's new feature on this page that you can kind of find out the latest and greatest kind of changes that Solace Cloud is making to these APIs?
So not yet. It's one of our most requested features. So we are.
Oh, okay, good. Yeah, because I like.
For now.
I have honestly just downloaded, when I was doing my V2 Event Portal API work, I would kind of download it about once a week and just do a diff and kind of like poke around inside the JSON to see what had changed. I mean, there's got to be a better way to do it, but in the early days of things change a lot. It was kind of interesting to watch that. So.
Yeah, one of the challenges we have is that we are trying to balance speed and consistency and efficiency. So there are teams that are starting to kind of converge on how they publish changes, and we're trying to figure out how to apply them to the rest of the teams without also slowing everyone to a crawl where you have a few points of coordination.
Yeah.
So that's what we try to look at when we're choosing when and how we introduce features like this.
Cool. All right, well, let's get to this demo. So, I mean, hopefully, yeah, people out there, if you want to try using, api.solace.dev is the kind of the landing page that we've been looking at there. This is public, it's live. It was made live a couple weeks ago or a month ago or so. Give it a try. It's pretty slick in terms of, kind of practicing and trying out what you can do with the various APIs that the Solace Cloud and, the mission control and everything can offer. But yeah, let's take a look at this this IntelliJ plugin. So I showed really quickly mine, which is kind of browsing the event portal. But what we're looking at here, Julian, is your little companion or related, I guess, plugin. So what do we got?
Yeah, exactly. So just like Aaron said, it's side by side with your event portal plugin. So you can actually look at both and play around with both, which I'll show a bit of. So this plugin, just like Aaron's, is available on Solace Labs. We are working to eventually get this into the JetBrains marketplace, but for now, you can just download a zip from there and install it. You start off with like a landing page of all the different event broker services you have, and you can scroll through. You can sort by the different columns as you would expect. So if you really want to see what are all my services in Asia Pacific South, that's how you would look at it. You can also search for things, and from there you can right click on some and say, I want to, let's say, open this one in my browser.
So which organization is this? This is your MAS Dev?
Yeah, so this is an internal dev account we have. The only reason why I picked it is that we have a lot more services in it, so it's a bit more interesting to.
Could you bring up the mission control like browser to kind of show the equivalent of what we're looking at here? Yeah.
So this is let's uncheck this. So this is the equivalent of what you would see on our SAS.
So if you're logging into the SAS and kind of logging into the mission control, you could see all these and the different. Who created it, where it's running, the different clouds. And so all of this is now available via this API. So that's what your app is pulling down here.
Exactly.
Cool. Are you going to get some pretty little icons there, like the GKE one and the AWS one? To like,
yeah, you should probably look into that. UI is definitely not my strong suit. So I think getting little icons like this took me the longest out of this entire plugin. And you can also delete. We give you like a little please enter the name so you don't accidentally delete one that you don't want to.
Yeah, you don't want to blow away a broker accidentally. Yeah, someone might get mad.
And if you double click on one, you get a few more details. So one is that you can see different endpoints that you can connect to this event broker service with. You can copy different details about it. And you can even connect and try publishing and subscribing to messages.
So those familiar with the mission control there, yeah, when you click on a broker service, you can kind of view connection details for all of our various APIs and protocols. There's MQTT and SMF and this and that. And all of that is exposed through this API. So you can basically say, grab me the connection details, grab me whatever, And you've written a little equivalent try me publisher subscriber here.
Yeah, exactly. And if you've used our Solace Cloud before, this will look familiar. We have this little try me here, and we even have sample code so you can kind of build your own. But this is pretty much I just copied it.
Yep.
But
this super comes in handy. Like you like if I'm building a publisher or something, I just want to echo what's on the going through my broker. I'll often use that try me, just subscribe to greater than, which is kind of everything, the catch all wildcard, and just echo it to the console so I can kind of keep an eye on it. So now I don't even need to have Solace Cloud open. I can just do it here in IntelliJ when I'm building my little app, my little test app.
Yeah, exactly. And we even have some fun things where you can copy a topic or message, or even choose resend. So if you want to test a different payload based on something else you got, you can try that out too.
That is cool. Is it using a WebSocket API or is it a Java API or which?
Yes, underneath the hood is the Java API, the new Java API. So this is
next gen. Yep. Yeah. That's cool. All right.
And something that's kind of fun is, so I generated an app using Aaron's plugin, and
sorry, Julian, we got a question here. Does it show the producer IP also? Well, we're looking for this is mission control, right? So it's going to show you the broker credentials and the broker interfaces and ports. If you want to see where you're connected, the producer would be yourself, essentially, right? Your local IP address would be the producer. You would have to use SEMP to actually go and query if you want to like look at the broker and find out where your various clients are connecting from, such as, you know, this plugin is actually a client here connecting and pubbing and subbing. You'd have to go to the broker and view that information. So you could use SEMP for that. So it's possible. It's just not exposed in this particular view here. So it could be done, but yeah.
Yeah, and we want to know more, right? If this is a plugin that you're very interested in and you want to build and ask for features for, well, one is that you can fork it and build it yourself, or you could raise an issue or anything on your GitHub, and it's something we'll look at. Yeah, like there's a lot available to us. If we have access to it, we can go grab it.
So basically, you can, using your plugin, you can say, all right, I want a new broker in AWS that's dev, small, medium, large. Build it. Yeah, I got a little widget and everything. That's awesome.
Yeah, exactly. So let's say you want to build it in Azure and in
got data centers and everything.
Yeah. And then
will this work for on-prem? Like, I mean, I know that we're looking to move Solace Cloud to on-prem Kubernetes installs. Would it work eventually for that? I mean, I don't know if it does now.
So with our APIs, you can. I mean, it's kind of trivial, but you're on the way the cloud platform sees on-prem is that it's just another provider and region.
Sure. Okay.
So this particular plugin won't show that information right now. But again, this is something we could always build and show here.
Right. So I can go ahead and build my service, and then once it's up and running, I can actually copy. Because one thing with my little test app, my event portal app, is you can browse the apps that are defined in the event portal. You can generate code from that, but then in terms of where to connect to, you know, I just have some, you can see, I got my local host kind of, if you're running a broker locally, that's super easy. So with yours, can you actually tell it where to connect?
Yeah, so one thing that we tried to do as a convenience function is that we can copy all the connection properties, put that on your clipboard, and hit paste, and there you go. It's got everything.
Boom. Yeah, wow. That's not bad. That sure beats copying field by field by field and, you know, pasting into your app. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, and if I set up our supplier correctly, I just subscribe to greater than, like you said, for a test, and there you go. You start seeing stuff come in. And this is just something I quickly added in so that it'll kind of publish it at a regular interval. And let's say you're testing this and you want to try testing a different SKU. You click resend. Yeah. You can modify the topic and maybe choose the SKU XYZ, fire that off. And
you can see it on the
right here.
Yeah.
And I think there must have been a log somewhere here, but it's a bit, you'll see XYZ right there.
No. I guess you're not populating everything in the payload.
Yeah.
There it is.
And that's where we hope we can really help developers, because I mean, one of the biggest advantages of REST is the ecosystem around it. The way you test things, like curl at this point is almost considered like a system command. And having something kind of similar, like a tool to hold your hand easily for these event-driven patterns is very useful.
So in terms of when you copy all of the connection details, I mean, you're formatting it to paste it into that YAML file there, right? So
Yes.
if we wanted to like, so for example, a lot of the sample code that we have, there's a kind of you know, it's broker IP space VPN name space username. Like there's a command line arguments. We could extend this to like say, all right, copy me the connection details in a different format, right? I mean, we could, I could make a pull request or something to add that as an option.
Yeah, of course.
We got Aditya commented here. I tend to get indentations wrong all the time. Yeah, that's a problem with YAML, screwing up indentations. You get your spaces wrong. Oh, we've all run into that once or twice, I'm sure, guys. Especially if you have something that's kind of going in and out, and you're copying and pasting from somewhere else, and your IDE is trying to help you by auto indenting, and you get it wrong. Hey, so Gary, I mean, I want to see your so the Confluence plugin is just been released only like a couple weeks ago, right? I mean, this is kind of hot off the press. Customers are asking for it. I want to see this thing in action because I don't think I actually have. I think I've seen some screenshots. So,
Okay.
Do you want to share your screen and we can give it a quick quick walkthrough here before? All right, where's Gary?
Let's go for that. Yep.
Let's switch to Gary's screen here, everybody. Oh, I can. It's like the Matrix. There we go. You want to zoom in a few clicks there? I got my screen's not so big and my eyes are not so good.
Right.
Awesome. All right. So what is this?
So the first thing is just with what Julian said. You know, everything that we develop is open source. It's available on Solace Labs. So Confluence has this framework to develop these apps / plugins, right? So we use the Forge framework to build our plugin. And first quick update is it's available in the marketplace. All right.
Which market?
So Confluence marketplace.
The Confluence marketplace.
So just search for Solace. The first thing that you see is Solace Event Portal. I mean, it's not like an installable on a IDE where pretty much you are the owner, you're the administrator. This involves a little bit of a Confluence administrator. You know, he or she need to install this app on the entire workspace. Then it becomes available for every single user under the Confluence workspace.
Right. So it's unlike the IntelliJ, which is like just locally on my machine, and I'm controlling it. This is like within your organization's Confluence environment. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So you have to be an admin, or you request your IT people to do this, or
That's right. So if you're a simple user, regular, not the admin one, you cannot do a get it now. It will throw an error. If you're an administrator, you can say get it now and install it on your Confluence ecosystem. You know, for example, when I look at our Solace workspace, right, this was installed by our administrator. That's how the app appears for me to start using.
Under apps. If you just wanted to try this out and test drive it, can you set up like a little dev environment in Confluence? I mean, I don't know. Do they offer that, like your own personal little space?
You can sign up for a trial account. All you need is just an email ID. Pretty much the entire Confluence, Jira, all these aspects are available for you for a trial version. So that means on that workspace, you can download this plugin as an administrator, and automatically it will be available for you to start using from here. So the moment you click on it, right now it's already installed and configured. It will take you to the token manager.
Right.
But before you go there, there are certain permission things that you need to set up, like, okay, for me to share that read permission on my metadata and things like that. All right. So workspace level installation, and then user level permission, allowing the app to access your profile. That's about it. Right? So continuing that, there are two aspects to this. The first one is just like what our plugin do, right? There's a token dependency. What you see here is the big magical string.
Zoom in a few clicks there, Gary. I want to copy your token.
No. So same story here. Now in the token generation, you got to give everything what you care for in terms of read-only access.
Read-only access, yeah. So mine's read-only access too. So we're not actually creating anything yet.
That is correct. So
Okay.
certain plugins are built for only the read aspect. We want to extract information from the event portal
Right.
and present it for visual consumption.
Hmm.
This plugin is not meant for creating broker surveys or publishing events, none of those things.
Okay.
Right? So once you get your token,
Not yet.
you
Not today. Maybe
not today.
maybe in the future.
I'll give you a few more seconds. Memorize it, please, before I switch over to the other screen. So once that's done, you are pretty much ready to go. I'm just going to go into my home. These are the pages that I've created.
Okay. Right. So we got application domains and apps and events and schemas. So all the same kind of tabs and views that we're used to in the portal.
Absolutely. These are regular Confluence pages. On that, what you're seeing here is a web UI,
Yeah.
basically a small layout, real estate. This information is extracted from event portal using REST APIs. All right. So the best way to relate to this is let me create a new page.
Okay.
Right. I'll make it real quick.
So it's not static. That's being generated right when I look at it.
Absolutely right. So the only one thing that I've done before is setting up the access token, API token, right? This is the first step.
Yeah.
And after that, just like however you would invoke any plugin for Confluence, like
Slash, blah,
faces
blah, blah.
list.
Yeah.
So you just start typing in Solace Event Portal, right?
Yeah.
So this is going to kind of prepare the plugin and says that, hey, you have not specified the URL for me. So here's the point. Since we are not talking about any kind of a create or update operation, our interface with Event Portal is a URL. For example,
Yeah.
when I go to my designer, right, I see so many domains and so on. So I'm going to pick a random example like store operations, right? The URL that you're looking at is the key for me, right? It
Same
can be
with my plugin too. Yeah, it's you need that URL at the top there.
right? So I take this application list of this particular domain, Acme Retail Store information.
Okay.
I go to my page,
Yeah.
and the interface with interfacing with the plugin is very much same as any other Confluence plugin. So just click on Edit. It'll open up a configuration section on your right-hand sidebar. Just paste it here. That's all you need to do. And then hand it off. Now behind the scenes, it's going to identify the resource under this URL. Oh, yeah,
Live demos. Always something.
Always. That's true. Sorry about that. I was in a different organization. I'm switching back to the right organization for which the token is created.
Right. Okay. So you were browsing a different org than you were actually browsing in Confluence. Interesting. Yeah.
So the takeaway is make sure that you take the token from the right organization.
That's right. Keep track of them correctly there.
All right. So now I copied the right URL, and it takes the API token and issues the REST commands, and you get the entire thing, right? So if you're a developer and architect, you would be kind of doing the documentation of your EDA, right? As part of that, how about bringing in information about your EDA assets, application domain, application events, schemas, everything. So what you're looking at is a list of all APIs. That's what this URL corresponds to in the event portal. So internally, it went ahead and pulled up all the, what do you call it? Let me just minimize this. The screen is big. So you can see here. So these are the applications available under that particular domain. And also at an application level, you would be able to fetch versions and see information about how many events exist in that application, how many schemas, and so on. So I'm just going to page a unique name. Sorry, I missed it.
That's all right.
That's a check of unique IDs. That's great. All right. So it's going to fetch all these things and fetch a version of this. It's going to load the application version. I mean, this might be a very simple resource or object here, but if you have a very complex one, for example, let me pick something more meaningful here.
So like if it had a longer description or more pubs and sub applications or events within it, it would show all that up in right in your Confluence page. Okay.
Good.
Yeah, this one's a pretty basic one.
Yeah. So our API is kind of rich with features like pagination and so on, right? So this app basically takes advantage of every single aspect. So when I issue a query, I might be getting 100 resources, but I cannot display all of them in one page, right? So we might be able to create a paginated effect here, and you can see information about every single application, like which domain it belongs to, what type of broker. So this metadata is specific to the object that you are retrieving using the REST API. So you can have another, for example, I go in here, I want to look at the schemas, right? I want to get all the schemas. I go edit in the same page. I will add one more Solace Solace Event Portal.
So if you were building like a Confluence page for each of your apps that your team is developing, you could build a page and then have a number of these links out into the event portal, and every time you would go to this page, it would like pull this data live from the portal and kind of show the most recent view of it, right?
Thanks for pointing it out. That's very important. It's a real-time API request being issued, and the result is rendered here. You're absolutely right.
So it's not, so it's not like it shows up once and then you kind of like cut and paste and it's just the static text. Every time you hit this, it's a REST call. Oh, wow. Okay.
Right. So it goes to the next page and say fetch versions, and it's going to fetch the schema versions now. And okay, I want to take, it gives you all the relevant metadata at an object level. So we're looking at a schema version. It also pulls up information about the referring events,
Zoom
and
in,
the name of the event, version, and so on.
Yeah.
So if you have access to it, it can even open the URL in the event portal.
Yeah, just like mine too. So you get more detail. If you want to see everything in the kind of native portal format, then you can just link out into it. That's awesome.
And also, get access to the schema, copy paste, and move on. So in a page, you can have any number of URLs unraveled with all the details that you care for, and it is interactive.
So I was going to say, is the source code available? Like, is it open source? But even if it was, it's not like you're not running this yourself, right? I mean, this has been uploaded into the marketplace for Confluence. So people can't really make changes to this themselves, can they?
Very good point. So the source code is made public. That means you can fork and build and host yourself using your account with the Confluence.
Oh, okay.
Right? So right now, it's this app is available in the marketplace, and it is hosted by Confluence on their cloud setup.
Okay.
Right? So if you want to use this app on your side, be assured that there is no information being passed through our plugin or to anywhere else.
So Solace is not hosting this at all. Like, I mean, this is hosted by Confluence or within their organization, their Confluence, and it's talking to their event portal, and that's it. Okay.
Absolutely right.
Oh, that's good. Okay. Yeah, we don't want to be. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good. So if they wanted to extend this and they want to add some functionality, the source code is it on GitHub Solace Labs as well, where our other plugins are? Oh,
Solace
perfect.
Labs, Solace Confluence.
That's right. You showed that earlier. Yeah. Okay.
And also this, if you want to do more enhancements or fork and make your own version, there is an installation guide that you can hand it off to your Confluence administrators that will walk you through how to install, the whole process. And if you're an end user, it also gives you a quick start of how to use this plugin. Hey, this is how you, after installation, you click on this, that'll get you to the token manager, generate the token, and then start typing in the plugin, bring in the URL, you're done. Right? So it's pretty complete. Anybody who wants to start with this, they can start as soon as tomorrow, anytime.
Very cool. That is nice, man. That's quite impressive. Wow. Well, what time is it? Oh, we're over. It's been an hour already. Thank you for demoing that. I really quickly wanted to show before we hang up here. I did want to talk on SEMP a little bit, and I never actually I never got quite around to it. So let me just pull up one quick screen on my side before we go. So back in the day, I wrote a big SEMP v1 monitoring application, and again, kind of figuring out how the SEMP v1 commands it's always a little bit tricky. So running Roach, if you're still out there talking about SEMP v1, this is a page that I auto-generated from my monitoring application showing all of the different show commands. So if you're familiar with CLI, this should look pretty familiar. Show this, show that, show message spool, show bridge, so queue details. And for each one of these commands that I ran, I actually have the actual SEMP. So this is the little XML RPC command that gets run off to the broker. And the point of this little monitoring program that I had written was it would query via SEMP and then actually take the responding data and publish it back onto Solace. So publish it as a message. And then if you had multiple downstream subscribers to that, they could just receive the topic. So turning a request reply kind of polling REST interface via XML into a push-based, your monitoring applications would just subscribe to, these particular topics. So stats, VPN name, router name, queue name, and you could listen to the data kind of just whenever it got pulled. So if you are building yourself a SEMP v1 monitoring application, you can check out this. This is hosted on the lab in the Solace office, sg.solace.com/aaron/statsdocs. And you can kind of see the various SEMP v1 commands. So if you want to show, I don't know, the bridge stats, I have the SEMP command here as well. You can kind of take a look at that in case that's helpful for anybody. This is also very old. I mean, it doesn't have RDPs or DMR or anything like that, because this I was writing this back when I was in London, so it's pretty old, but it might get you started if you want to do some SEMP v1 SEMP v1 stuff. Anyway, I want to quickly have SEMP. Maybe we'll have a full SEMP episode one time. I don't know. It could happen. There is a lot of stuff that you can do with SEMP that we didn't have time to cover. I didn't even get to talk about DSEMP. So our declarative SEMP, this is something R&D is working on right now. For those out there who don't know what I'm talking about, think of basically you have your broker. It's configured with a bunch of queues and usernames and whatever. And you have your known golden state over here in your kind of your Terraform or, some kind of definition of like, this is what my VPN is supposed to look like, or my broker, my Solace Cloud instance is supposed to look like. You can just take that and give it to DSEMP and say, make it look like this. And it will go and do the diffs and the deltas and figure out what configuration needs to change, quotas, permissions, ACLs, and it'll actually figure out everything that it needs to modify in the broker to make it look like your known kind of end state. Something that's been requested many times. A lot of our kind of longtime customers have built similar functionality themselves. I've written diff tools using CLI and using SEMP to kind of find where things are misconfigured. But yeah, we're building this into the broker. So it's DSEMP. It's not available yet. It is being actively worked on. We do have customers that are asking about it. So if yeah, there we go. Something that people are wanting. I hear you. So yeah, Running Roach, stay tuned. It is coming. I don't know exactly when. Maybe I'll get one of the architects who's working on it to come and join me on my on a stream, and we can talk about DSEMP. But as soon as I know more about it, I will be letting people know. Or of course, ask your friendly Solace account person for more details there. So, gentlemen, that's we're a bit over actually. That was great. I think this was a very information-packed episode. So thank you for joining us, Gary. Thank you for staying up late. Do you want to say a few words, both of you, before we head out?
Fantastic. I'm just impressed with the lineup of APIs. Options are plenty, so just use it judiciously.
Yeah, and please give us feedback. Like we spent a lot of time working on these sorts of things and using them internally to gather like data on how we expect our users to use it. But if there's something that's bothering you or you wish this API did A, B, or C, like please let us know. Like this is stuff that we are actively evaluating to do better.
Yeah, when I was building my API or my plugin last year, I was feeding a lot of stuff back to the portal team, and they're like, "Yep, that's good. We didn't think about that." And so we are constantly asking for feedback, and it means people are actually trying to use our stuff. So I agree. Let us know. Come find us on Solace Community. That is the best place to kind of find Giri and myself. Julian, we got to get you hanging out there, answering some user questions. There's one last comment here before I go. What's that? If we deploy Event Portal on-prem, would these APIs be able to deploy them, or is it cloud only? Julian, I think you answered that. I think it will be available at some point.
Yeah, so I mean, APIs are like the basic foundations we use to build all of our stuff. So this is like our UI just uses these same REST APIs. So these ones that we document are inherently part of the product.
Yeah. So it will be indeed. Okay, gentlemen, thank you very much. Gary, go to bed. Thank you for joining us. Julian, thank you as well. Go get some lunch. And thanks to everybody out there for joining us. I wasn't around last month. Last month we had our Solace user group, so I didn't get to do my office hours at the end of the month, but hopefully I'll be back at the end of May. I don't know what my topic is yet. There's a couple options floating around, but be sure to check out our channel on YouTube or keep tracks of us on LinkedIn. They'll be announced there. Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, guys. Talk to you later.
Thank you, guys.